Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another session on Azure. Right, so for today, we're going to go through how to set up Azure Network Security Groups. Right, so Emmanuel, hope you're doing well, and I hope you're excited for this session.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the session, and I'm doing so well. Yeah.
All right, so it's a weekend around here. Everything is nice and chilled, and we are ready to go. So let's get started. So the question is, what is Azure Network Security Group? So I'm just going to give you a few of these. So Azure Network Security Group is a fundamental Azure security service that acts as a distributed stateful firewall to filter network traffic to and from Azure resources. So in a nutshell, it acts more like a firewall. Consider your on-prem firewall where you define the various ports to allow specific access to specific services. So that's a similar one we have here in Azure as a resource. So that means with your Azure Virtual Network, you can actually place this network security group in front of them to ensure that it filters those traffic. So the sole purpose for this is actually to filter traffic between Azure resources in virtual network, then also allowing and denying outbound communication based on 5 DPoE rules. So when I say 5 DPoE rules, think about it as your destination, the destination port, your source port, your source, and also the protocol. So because those are the 5 DPoE rules. So that means based on the rules that you're going to configure, you need to obviously consider all of those things that we just talked about, right? So the other main purpose of this is also to protect your resources from malicious traffic and enforces compliance. Right. So if your organization want to ensure that specific services are blocked not to be accessed from externally or even internally not to be accessed, then you can obviously use the NSG to set up those to meet those compliance essential. Right. It also creates segmentation between networks. So you might have multiple networks. Even within the same network, you might have subnet. Within that subnet, you probably don't want traffic to go to a specific subnet, or even if you want traffic to go to a specific subnet, not all services. You can also use the NSG to create this segmentation. Okay, so now let's look at some of the key features and capabilities. So for Azure Network Security Group, this provides an enterprise-grade network security through a comprehensive set of filtering capabilities to protect your cloud resources. So when we're talking about that, the first of all will be the stateful packet filtering. The second will be the rule-based control. So what I mean by the rule-based control is you can set up specific rules, and the way it works is that the first priority, which means a rule with a lower priority number. So if let's say you have a set of rules and the priority number is, let's say, 100, and you have another rule of priority of, let's say, 500, the 100 priority will take precedent over the 500 rule. So when you're setting up your rules, you take that into consideration, how you want it to be filtered. And once the rule is hit, then it won't look at any other rule. It will just stick with that, evaluate that rule. So that means that with the stateful nature of the whole rule base when it comes to network security group. All right. And this can be flexible. You can link it to a subnet, to a network interface, or even to a VM directly. You can also leverage service tags. So what we mean by a service tag is more like a group of IP addresses that have a specific tag. So for example, you can have a storage services, and then with that storage services, rather than obviously setting up each and every single IP addresses for that storage services, it will group under one specific tag as a storage tag, and you can obviously use that. Right. So with Network Security Group, it supports those specific service tags as well. Right. It also supports application security grouping. So when you have logically group a specific resources that have the same sort of like a functions. For example, a database, or let's say a web filter, you might group all those specific services into one application security group. So that means you can then link the network security group to this application security group, and all those services will have access to those ports you've enabled in this network security group. So more like a like for like services that require the same number of network security group, you can then attach it to a network security group based on this application security group. All right. And when it comes to trying to analyze and capture the traffic flow, for example, if there's any issues, you want to find a way to troubleshoot those issues, you can use the network logs, flow logs in the virtual machines to look into this. So let's look at how it works. So for network security group, they are going to be evaluated based on the traffic as it comes in. So we will look at its specific processes. So we use that you process the traffic in this way: inbound traffic, subnet rules evaluation first, then the NIC rule. So that means in your infrastructure, you might have traffic coming in. It will first of all hit the subnet. If a network security group is attached to the subnet, that traffic is evaluated against that. If, let's say, that traffic is blocked under the network, the subnet NSG, then the traffic will not even make its way to the NIC NSG. So that means the network interface NSG that's attached to your VM. So once this is evaluated, then it will proceed to the NIC to be evaluated as well. So each of these will have different sorts of services that is being allowed, right? So it works that kind of way, right? And when it comes to outbound rules, it works the other way around. We'll first of all start with the evaluation of the NIC traffic, because the traffic will be originated from the VM. So that means since the NIC energy is directly attached to the VM, that will first assess that traffic to see whether it's allowed to go out. If it is, then the next stage will go to the subnet NSG. Once that is evaluated before it's actually allowed to go to the other network is meant to go to, or if its destination is the internet, then it will push the traffic to the internet. So that's the way it works. So let's look at some of the real world use cases. Most often, when it comes to application architecture or setting up application, you might have multiple tier, right? The common ones would be, there will be, let's say, a data tier, there will be a web tier, and let's say app tier, even a database tier. In those sort of like layouts, right? Each specific tier will have different network security group attached to it. That's allowing specific type of traffic or specific type of access to specific services. So that means with the application tier, you will probably enable specific IP addresses, specific port numbers for users to access them. So the web tier will also have a specific services that you're going to allow. So you can use a network security group to define those specific services essentially. Now let's look at how we're going to create the network security group. So I've broken this down into these deployment steps. So the first thing is that we can create a network security group. Once we create the network security group, then we can define what are the specific rules that we want to allow for this rule, right? Then once we allow the rules or deny specific rules, then we can then proceed to associate that network security group to either a subnet or a network interface. And if you want to then monitor the flow of the traffic, then we can use the network watcher to see the flow of the traffic in the sense of, let's say, analyzing the traffic, troubleshooting, and also having a security audit. We can essentially do that. So I'm just going to walk through the whole process now. Just going to bring out my Azure environment real quick. All right, so first thing first, just log into portal.azure.com. Once you log into it, to get a network security group, you can simply type NSG, and then you'll notice that will be a network security group here, or you can also use these options here, I think once you come into here, you should be able to find it under here. So network security group, you can get it directly from here. But I'm just going to navigate to using the global search. So I can just type in NSG, select it. It will take me to the same page as you can see here. And then to create this, I can click on this button to create it. The reason why nothing is showing up here is this are filtered under this specific security, sorry, the specific subscription. If I remove that subscription, it will show everything in this, and there's an existing NSG there, right? But to create it, you can simply click on the create button here, and that will open up the creation blade for network security. And as any sort of like a creation of a resource in Azure, you first of all define a subscription. So if you have multiple subscriptions, then you can select it from here. Then you can define a security group. If you don't have an existing one, then you can essentially create one. So for this, I'll just name it as test NSG. And I'll just use the RG to indicate resource group. Then you can give that NSG a name. So I can name this one as test NSG. Then you can select the region you want to deploy these resources. So I'm just going to deploy this one in East US, but you can decide to choose whatever region you want to deploy this. The next thing, you can tag this as well. So for a production environment, it's always good to tag it because it helps you in terms of, let's say, billing. If you want to see how the cost implication is for these specific resources by leveraging a tag, is really, really essential in that kind of way, right? So once you set up your tag, I'm not going to set up a tag for this, but I can then proceed to click on next. Once you click on next, then you're all good to go. So it should now validate these settings, and if everything is good, then you can simply click on the create button to create the NSG resource. Okay, so creating the resource is nice and easy. As you can see, it has been created already. Deployment is successful. So once the deployment is successful, we can then go directly to the resource by clicking on go to resource right here. And that will take you to the new NSG that we've just created. Right. So once you've created a resource group, the next step is to define the rules. So as you can see from the bottom here, the overview section, when you scroll down, you notice that there is different traffic flows. So there's an inbound security rules, and if you go down, there's outbound security rules. Inbound is traffic coming in. So that means traffic that is originating from the internet first. So that means, let's say I want to access that resource. Either I use an SSH or RDP. So in those scenarios, the traffic is actually originating from outside your network. So for us to allow those traffic in, we need to define a network security rule to allow the traffic to come in. So I'm just going to give you an example of how to create this. So I'm just going to scroll to here. You notice that there is these allow rules. So you see if the rules are denied or allowed. So these are the predefined ones. You notice that there's a base rule of deny all. So the rule is denying everything. You can see that the port section, the to-do I was telling you about, the port section is any, the protocol is any, all protocol, source is any, destination is any, and the action is to deny everything, right? Then when you move to the top, you notice there's another rule for load balancing, and that is allowing everything. The same thing applies to communication between networks. So for any VM, any subnet within this VM, they will be able to talk to each other. If you don't want that to be the case, then you can define a rule at the top of it to prevent that from happening. All right. So to define the rules, let's go to settings here and then click on which of the rules you want to change. So I'll click on inbound security rule. And now I get an option to add at the top here. All right. So I can select that. And then I can say, okay, I want to apply a rule to, let's say, a service tag. So I can define different specific service tags. As you can see, internet is a service tag. One of the key things I mentioned was the storage. So we can have a storage tag as well. This will have a group of IP addresses that we can actually apply the security group to. But in this scenario, I'm just going to apply the rule to my IP address. So I can say, okay, apply this to my IP address. So it should know what my IP address is, and then it will define the IP address there. And then the source port. I can now say, okay, I want the traffic that from outside, I want it to be any source port. But the destination, that means for the resource that I'm trying to connect to, I want to talk to a specific, let's say, address or service. You can define it here, but for this, I'll leave it as any, right? Then for the service, I will say, okay, I want to SSH into that specific service. So I can then look for SSH. So just select SSH, and it should know what protocol and the port that is. Then I can simply click on add. And what this will do is that it will define a rule here, as you can see there. And then that rule is at the top with 100. That means priority-wise, this rule will take precedence over any other rule that already exists. Right. So that means when the traffic is coming in, it will hit this rule and to allow the traffic through, even though the base rule is to deny everything. All right. Right. So, Iman, do you have any questions in regards to this?
It's all right. It's all right. But one thing I was wondering is you were talking about the source. So the source, the IP address, is it your own server?
No, the source here will be where I'm actually connecting from. So that will be my IP address. That means when I'm making a connection from outside that network, the host machine that I'm connecting from, right, its IP address. The destination will be the services I'm going to link this NSG route to. All right. So that's how it works. Okay. So these are inbound traffic. You can also define outbound traffic as well if you want to. Yeah, this is the same logic here. The outbound traffic will be traffic that is originating from the application or the VM I'm going to attach this to, right? When it's going outside the network, you can block and allow certain things if you choose to as well. But by default, it's allowing everything. So as you can see from here, the destination is internet. And you can see that for the outbound rule, you say allow internet outbound. So that means it's going to literally allow any connection to the internet, right? Because normally when you set up a host device, you want to give the ability for it to talk to the internet. But for traffic to be initiated from outside, you don't want that to happen. So that's why you leverage the inbound rule to only allow the traffic you want to be allowed into your network. All right. So that's it. We've set up the inbound rule. Now the next step is to attach this to either a network interface or a subnet. So to do that, so first we have a network security. Sorry, first we have a network interface or subnet. We can do that. So I'm just going to click on a subnet. All right. So at the moment, I'm just going to see if I have any resources in East US. So I'll click on associate. Yeah, so I have this virtual network in East US. I can link it to this specific one. So this subnet here, default, I can say, okay, I want to link the rule I've just created to that. So when I select that and set it to default and I click on OK, so what will happen is that now this network security group will now be linked to this specific subnet. All right. The same thing applies to the NIC, the network interface. You can also associate it to another network interface within the same region. Right. So I cannot do that here, but you can do that if you choose to. Right. So once you set this up, let's go into the overview. So previously, let me just see if we can have the option to look at the topology. So we have this resource visualizer. Let's go to that resource visualizer and see the network. So we have that network security group. I'm just going to go into the virtual network page. So I'm just going to go here, click on the virtual network. And I believe it's linked to this specific virtual network here. And now let's go into the resource visualizer here. So as you can see for that, it shows you that this is linked to, I'm just going to make this one a bit bigger. This rule is, this network is linked to this network security group. So you can easily see what is it linked to by leveraging this. Right, you can check it from here. The other thing is we can also go to the virtual machine, just see what virtual machine we have. So let me click on that virtual machine and go to the resource visualizer. So in the same way, you'll notice that this will tell us the network information, what this virtual machine is linked to. So this helps you in terms of knowing what are the resources that is linked to a virtual machine. So in terms of your troubleshooting, you'll be able to troubleshoot to understand what is really going on. Right, so that's it for network security group. If you want to, let's say, capture some of the traffic, then you can use the network flow log or network watcher to actually see those traffic flow. So we have the network watcher, which is sole purpose is to see traffic as it actually comes in, and then you can monitor the traffic flow. All right. Right, so I think we can call it a day from here. If this helps you out and you've learned something from it, make sure you do subscribe to the channel. So we see you guys in the next one. Peace out.